Video will discuss strategies for multiplying by eights. When multiplying by eights, there are actually a lot of different strategies you can use, so pick the one that you like the best, that feels most comfortable, and practice that one. So when thinking about 8 times 7, that's a lot of groups, 8 groups of 7. So one way to think about that is to split that 8 into 2 equal groups of 4. So instead of thinking of this as a whole big group of 8 times 7, I'm going to think of this as 4 times 7. And then I know that second part, since I split it in half, is also 4 times 7. So now I think of it as 4 times 7, which is 28, 4 times 7, which is 28, and I know 28 and 28 is 56. Maybe you don't like your 4s, maybe you like your 5s better. So now I'm going to split this array up into 5 groups of 7 and 3 groups of 7. And so now I'm thinking of this as 35, and the bottom part is 21, and I know 35 and 21 is also 56. So thinking about those two strategies using a different model, if I think of 8 times 6, again, that's a lot of groups. So I'm going to take that 8 and I'm going to split it into 2 groups of 4. So the top part here is 4 times 6, which is 24. The bottom part here is also 4 times 6, which is 24. And I know 24 plus 24 is 48. If you like your 5s better, this model shows that nicely. I might think of this as 5 groups of 6 and then 3 groups of 6. 5 groups of 6, well, that's easy. That's 30. And I know 3 groups of 6 is 18. 30 plus 18 is 48. Both get you the same answer. You're just breaking up that 8 into 2 different groups. So here's the third model to think about those two strategies. So this is a 10 frame. So 8 times 3, I can see there's 8 groups of 3, but this model really helps me see that there's 5 groups of 3 at the top, which is 15. And the bottom, I can see 3 groups of 3, which is 9. And if I add 15 plus 9, that will get me the answer to 24. So a second way to think of this, if you like your doubles, I'm going to move that over so I can see that there's 4 groups of 3 2 times. And I know 4 times 3 is 12, 4 times 3 is 12, 12 plus 12 is 24. So here's one more strategy. We looked at how to think of 8s as 4 plus 4. We looked at 8s, how to chunk that into 5 and 3. Maybe you like your 10s better. We could use 10 to help solve this. So if I think of 8 times 3 instead of as 10 times 3, 10 times 3 is easy, that's 30. And then I just have to subtract these 2 extra groups of 3. So 30 minus these 2 extra groups, which is 6, would be 24. So symbolically, here's how that would look. I thought of the 8 instead as 10 minus 2. So I took 10 times 3, which was 30. Then I took 2 times 3, which was 6. I just had to take the whole, which was 30, minus those 2 extra groups, which was 6, to get to 24. So using that 10 strategy to solve for 8s, here's another model to think about that. So 8 times 7. Instead, I'm going to think of this as 10 groups of 7 because, again, 10s are easier. So I see that that's 70. And then I just have to subtract this 2 groups of 7 from 70. So 70 minus 14 is going to give me 56. So again, symbolically, here's what that would look like. The 8, instead, I'm going to think of it as 10 minus 2. So I think of 10 times 7 is 70. I take away those 2 red groups, these 2 rows that are red. 2 times 7 is 14. 70 minus 14 is 56. So any of these strategies work. It's really what you feel most comfortable with. If you like your 5s, your 10s, or if you like splitting it up into 2 equal groups, use that. So remember, when multiplying by 8s, you can think of the 8s as a group of 5 and a group of 3. You can think of it as 2 groups of 4, or you can think of it as a group of 10 and then subtract 2 groups.